Well, good morning. This is Scott McMeans with Action Coach SBL. I'm here on the Business Spotlight with Joe Stanoszek from VO Med Spa. And we're going to spend a couple minutes learning about Joe, his business, and what makes him successful. So, Joe, if you wouldn't mind, kick us off with a little information about you and how you started VO Med Spa.
Yeah, so we can start back from my first business, if you will. My first business was in Toledo, Ohio. I got transferred there after college, working for Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And shortly after starting there, I decided I wanted to go off on my own and be my own boss, right? So I started a dry cleaner. Well, the dry cleaning business wasn't the it wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. A lot of hard work. I remember going into work 4 a.m. every day, turning on those boilers. There's one time in the winter, I remember when I didn't have the low pressure valve on. I didn't have a low pressure valve. I didn't know what one was. And walking in there and it literally exploded everywhere. So water was everywhere. It was freezing. It was a disaster. So quickly decided that I needed to get out of that business. So I found some operators to run it for me. I knew that I wanted to get into a different business, and it was tanning. I knew it was a very lucrative business, and that I could scale it pretty quick. I knew I was good at sales, so and I knew people in Cleveland that owned tanning salons that were very successful. Well, they had told me that, hey Joe, if you come to Cleveland, well, if you open a tanning salon, we'll help you. Just don't open in our backyard. I said, okay, no problem. So I opened the furthest possible place that I could. I opened it, and they're like, well, you're going to be essentially competing with us, so you're on your own. So I said, what the hell? So I figured it out. When I first opened my first tanning salon in Willoughby, Ohio, I signed up 300 memberships within 30 days, which is, in the tanning industry, that's pretty good. And from there, I scaled up to 3 locations, all very successful. And then in 2013, I had one of my customers come to me and ask me if I wanted to open a laser spa. So she came to me within 3 days of her coming to me. I had already started construction and in the back of my tanning salon. And at night, we were doing construction. And I had bought the machines, everything else. We had opened 3 weeks from her coming to the location. So that was kind of we fast tracked that process really quick. It didn't go. The sales didn't come in as planned right away, and there's another backstory to that, but we won't get into that. And long story short, we ended up scaling to be one of the top Botox providers in Cleveland in the back of my tanning salon within 5 to 6 months. Fast forward to 2018, I believe it was. I met some guys that do franchise development. We met, and I told them the numbers we were doing. They could not believe the numbers we were doing, so they came to my spa, looked at our numbers, and they decided from that point that they wanted to franchise my company. So we did that. We went through the process. At that time, I was called Skin Deep Mega Tanning. And they're like, Joe, this is actually kind of a funny story. Nobody knows this really. So so they're like, Joe, you can't keep the name Skin Deep Mega Tanning or Skin Deep Medi Spa because there's too many and we have to own the trademark to it. So I said, all right, well, we'll figure a new name. So me and my brother, who's my co-founder, and 2 other guys, we sat in the back of my med spa and tried to come up with a name every Friday for about 2 hours for about 4.5 months. Well, we couldn't think of any names, and we came down to 3 names. I hated them all, and I was at Town Hall in Cleveland, and I was drinking bone broth. And so they said, Joe, you got to let us know by next week what you want the name to be. I was like, God. I hate these names. So I'm at Town Hall drinking bone broth, like I said, and the lid said Viora, Vioura. So I'm like, VO Med Spa. And I'm like, so I text the guys, I'm like, guys, what do you think about VO Med Spa? They're like, what? Yeah, I love it. What does it mean? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what it means. Doesn't mean anything. I just, what do you like? You like it or no? So
Best
they're like
story for a name ever.
that. They're like, yeah, I love it. And, it's kind of synonymous because, bone broth is known for having collagen and everything else in there and all these healthy entities and stuff. So we went with it. VO Med Spa, VIO. And then everybody started calling it VIO. We're like, damn it, it's not VIO. It's VO. So we changed we had to change the logo a couple different times. So we went from having it was VIO with the slash underneath it, a little tilde underneath it. And then we changed it to V/O. So people are saying it properly, VO Med Spa. So that's that story. Fast forward, we brought on an investor. He was the co-founder of Orange Theory. That allowed us to accelerate growth a little bit. But then COVID hit, and he had to focus more on Orange Theory again. So we pivoted. We bought him out of the company. And from that point, COVID came back. I mean, during COVID, I was getting 5 to 6 messages a day. Joe, can you have your nurse inject me? I won't say anything. I'm like, no, I'm not risking my business just to inject you. It's not happening. So we bounced back from COVID. Our numbers have increased 40% year after year after year. Since starting, since getting back from COVID, we have right now, we have 20, I believe 28 locations open. We'll have 50 open by the end of the year. And then we have just about 250 locations sold nationally. And that's through area development contracts and things like that. And what that means, area representatives, that means that they buy a territory and they have to develop it within a certain amount of time. So by 2025, we should have roughly the 200 locations open. Or no, I'm about 25, 26, we should have 200 locations open roughly.
And what's the geographic territories? Across the country or just Midwest?
Country. The only states we won't go into is like California. California is just too saturated. The laws there are too difficult. It's just not worth our time.
Okay. So thank you for that.
We're sold in 19 states right now.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you for the background and the story. Like best story I've heard about as far as how you name the company. Yeah. What I want to do is ask you a couple questions about your business. You've kind of touched on a number of different things. You've grown really well. What do you attribute your success and growth to? What are the things that make that happen for you?
My parents, with all of me, my brother, and my sister, I have a younger brother. He's one of my partners. Love him to death. He's Nick's more the risk adverse person, and I'm the risk. So Nick takes everything, refines it, makes it better. Then I have my twin sister, love her to death. She's a teacher. My parents have always, she's a special ed teacher. She's always gone above and beyond. She started a nonprofit for her students at Shaw. She's great. She's absolutely amazing. But my parents have always taught us to go above and beyond, right? And we started working at, I think it was like 14 years old. My first job was in produce at Rini Rigo's in Strongsville. And always taught us to work hard. And I've always wanted more and more and more. We grew up, middle class and just always taught to work hard. So I just, I've always been more of an innovator, right? That's my mindset. I'm great at starting things. I'll be the first one to admit, I'm not the best at running things. I just, it's not that I get bored, but it's just I get excited about something else and I just want to start something else, right? So my strength is I can get something going and then I have no problem handing it off to somebody else. And I think that's where a lot of business people fail, if you will, business owners, because they're too not want to say cocky, but they're too confident and they think they could just do all the steps. Now, I know a lot of people who started their business and continue to run them. There's, I could speak to a lot of them, in Cleveland that run their business from ground up and they're doing a fantastic job. But for me, my thing is I think that there's other people that are better at running your business, right? So I've always, when we started the franchise, I'm like, look, guys, you guys are better at running this than I am. I'll just sit back. I'll do the innovation. I'll come up with new things that we're going to offer, new product things, new like right now I'm working on wellness, and that was my big I want to bring into the company and really like kick off. And because I knew that's where things were heading. I saw where that it was where Botox was in 2013, and there was a huge market for that. So that's what my thing is. I don't need to be in the day to day of everything. I'm more of like the innovator side. So I'm okay with that though. My brother is more of the white collar and just needs to be in that kind of stuff. And I'm I'm all over the place. I'm all over the
I
place.
like
To the max.
the thing you said that resonated well is I'm an innovator. That's fine, but I have people that do the jobs I don't want to, or nor am I good at doing, and that's a
Right.
solid way to run your business. Being where you are now, how do you explain the work-life balance for you? How does that come across?
Um, I'm not the type of person that can just I just can't sit still.
Mhm.
At my laser spa, which so when we right now, for example, I'm running my laser spa, and it's when we separated my company, we decided that we weren't going to keep laser hair removal or tattoo removal. So I'm a very loyal person. Like loyalty is one of the biggest things for me, and you never you never do wrong to those who help you get to where you got. Right? That's just my mind, my
Good point.
man will, my mindset. Well, I could not. Those the girls that my employees, I treat everything like family, right? My employees can come to me whenever they need, and they do. Like Joe, I need to talk to you about this. Can you do this? And I'll talk to my CEO. Like, hey, Ryan, we got to work on this because this is the issue, and I want that to feel comfortable. To come to me with anything that they have problems with, and because I want it to be like a friend, like a family. Well, that being said, I spend my time at my laser spot, and I separated that out of my med. We we weren't going to franchise with the laser hair removal or the tattoo removal because the product offering, there's too many laser hair spots for one, and tattoo removal, the machines cost too much, and there's that many people that need tattoo removal, so we cut that out of the business. So I started a separate business, and I had all my employees that weren't going to work at the med spa work at this. These girls need that second job, and I couldn't deprive them of cutting another income out of their lives and things like that.
Sure.
So I may not make the most here, and that's fine. As long as I supply them with the job, that's the most important thing. So
That's a
that's
great
my day now.
perspective.
I advertise for the company. I'm always, talking to franchisees. I'm very involved with VO. I'm always pushing wellness. I have people messaging me nonstop. I want to get into this. I direct them to everyone in our company who to talk to and things like that. So I'm very much involved with the advertising, the marketing, day to day. I'm always doing something. I can't sit still. I'm not. Could I sit at home and just do whatever and work from home? Yeah, but I hate it. I can't stand it. I have to be around people. I joke around in my office. Okay, I mean, I'm a big Trump fan, and that may affect some people, but I do these times I make these videos, and I get my employees involved. Everybody laugh. I try to keep it fun. I try to keep the work environment fun. I don't want it to be a very uh, too structured. I like the people have fun at work where it's not a job. It's more, they come to work and they enjoy work. So that's always been my thing. And, you know, could it be more structured? Yeah, but I don't need it to be. So
Well, there's an interesting line between structure and culture, right?
right,
They both do
culture,
the
culture to me is very important. And anybody
and
that
that's
knows Cleveland knows that, I'm a fun loving guy. And, I bring that all the way down to the workplace. Culture is so important. It's so important.
yeah, it's interesting. There's a vision, there's a mission, and then there's the culture that you bring all of it together. And if you have the right people in the right seats on the bus, you go the right direction. And it's all founded on what is your vision, your mission, and what's that culture you create. Structure comes after you get the right people on board, right? So what I'm interested to figure out from you, what learnings have you found over the last so many years of your expansion and your growth that really could be breadcrumbs for the next guy, right? What is it that you've learned over the years that separates like your mind of this is what works, this is what doesn't, or whatever? What are the top things that come to mind?
Don't make excuses. I mean, I see a lot of people making excuses left and right. I can't do this because of this. I can't do this because of that. Don't make excuses. A lot of people are afraid to take risks too. You're never going to get anywhere in life if you don't take a risk. And I've taken a lot of risks. Some don't pan out, some do. But for the most part, I would never be where I am today if I didn't take a risk. You know what I mean?
I
And
like
I
it.
think so many people are so worried about, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Who cares? If you're good at what you do and you're a hard worker, you'll just find something else to do. You know what I mean? That I have, if I lose everything today, I have no problem that I could start another business and be successful at it because I have the drive. I'm not lazy. And really, that's what it comes down to is you just cannot be lazy. You can't be afraid to take risks. And also do your due diligence on people. There's a lot of shady people that are trying to, benefit off of you and take advantage of you. That's a big thing. I've had a lot of people in the past do that. It's
Yeah,
sad,
so
but I always
oh, it
come up
is,
ahead.
unfortunately. What what would you suggest are some of the top things that you look for in your employees? We kind of talked about the culture side. Is there something that, if you were to say, here are the top 5 things I need out of my employees, what would those be?
First things first is if someone comes to you and says, well, how much time am I going to have to work or um, how much vacation do I need? They're not the employee you want. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and if they say that, if they don't say that in the beginning and then all of a sudden they start doing it right away, cut your losses. Whatever the cost is, cut it now because if you don't, it's going to end up costing you more money. And it's going to cause you more agony and everything else. And it's just not worth that.
I get that. I get that a lot. Um, Kind of following that train of thought, Joe. What are some of the misconceptions that people might have about being a business owner?
Get
Right?
rich quick. I mean, really, people think that you start a business and that tomorrow you're going to be rich. Oh no. When you start a business, prepare for some ups and downs, prepare for some things that are going to drive you through the dirt. I have epilepsy and I can't tell you the amount of stress being a business owner has had on me. I mean, I've had shingles. It's
Ooh,
I've been put through the ringer, and it's gonna take some years off your life. But just don't stop working hard. Don't give up. I mean, that's the biggest thing I tell people. You can't give up. You have to be expecting that those things are going to happen because people just think that you can open a business and everyone thinks it's easy. Everyone thinks it's so
mm-hmm.
easy, and it's not. People think things were given to me. People think this. You're from Strongsville. You were given everything. Oh no. If you knew what I had to do to get my first business going, you can't do this today with lending. I had to
Yeah,
tell one thing, another bank, another thing, just to get loans in order to get things going. Yeah, that's what you had to do. But you
yeah.
can't do that, which is, and there was nothing that was illegal or wrong. It's the way that you had to. I was leveraged. I mean, I was leveraged, but
Yeah.
it paid off.
Well, I'm going to
You
kind of
you have to
parlay
be
this into
creative.
the next question. What's that?
You got to be creative.
Okay. I'm going to parlay that into the next question, right? What advice would you give a new business owner on financially managing the business? Not the operations, not sales, but financially, how do you best operate a business? What advice would you give to somebody?
Best advice for operating a business. Uh, I mean, other than prepared to work, 80 hours plus, that's a
Yeah.
given. You know, if you're going into a business and you're expecting to work 40 hours and you're expecting to get a paycheck, forget it because I'm the last one to get paid when I first started my businesses. I mean, I didn't pay myself when I opened my dry cleaner for 5 years. I did not pay myself one time. I mean, it is what it is. And when you have everything on the line, you can lose everything. It's, do you pay yourself? Do you pay your employees to keep your business going, or do you file bankruptcy? I'm too proud to file bankruptcy. I would never do that. So
Yeah.
I never paid myself, and you had to be prepared to do that.
It's a tough situation to be in, right? And
Yeah.
you clearly gotten through it. So I'm gonna go back to the 18-year-old Joe. You are now sitting with 18-year-old Joe right next to you. What are you going to turn and say to him as far as this is the advice you need for the next so many years? What advice do you give 18-year-old Joe?
Be more. So this is a difficult question. So every time I opened a business, I learned something new, right? So my first business was the dry cleaning, right? I learned that it was a very labor intensive business, and I relied on my employees. And there was times where I had to pick up my employees just to work, and that was not the easiest thing. My second job was tanning, and what happened with tanning is, it was just I was ruled by the seasons, right? So it was a very seasonal thing, and you had a budget throughout the year. That became very difficult. My next business was the med spas, and that was my most successful. What I learned is that you want to create a business where you have business professionals working, not so much. I just would. You need business professionals working, people that are going to show up to work every day, and that you don't have to count on not showing up. You know what I mean? So create a business that that people are going to show up to work at, and that's not seasonal, that's recession proof, and you're not going to be controlled by your employees. I mean, really, because those are a lot of issues I faced in my first and second business.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to be able to move quick on your feet, because in my med spa business, I've had, I think, 4 of my employees leave and start their own med spas. So I had to they leave, take customers. I started over again. You just can't give up.
Wow.
But that's a hard question to say. What would I tell my 18-year-old self, Joe? Because I really can't answer that, because everyone's going to say, well, do this, do this, do this. You need those experiences. And it's almost like a in the moment type thing that you have to make those moves on. And your past experiences, that's when those help. You know what I mean? Who to trust. Sure. And I've learned, don't do business with people unless you do. That's the biggest thing I guess I would learn or that I would take for myself is, make sure you do your research on people and make sure you trust who you're doing business with, because a lot of people are just in it for themselves, and they'll string you dry until they get everything out of you that they need, and then take advantage of you and then go and do their own thing, because that's happened to me so much. And my mom has always taught me, well, both my parents, I don't hold grudges, it's, you gotta let things go. You can't hold on things forever, because it's going to eat you alive. If I held on to every little thing that, when people left and, started their own businesses, I would be nowhere, because I'd be busy grieving. You can't let that, you just got to keep moving.
There's a good philosophy.
Honestly.
Well, there's a good philosophy out there that says the world is a place of abundance. And when you think about life in scarcity, you miss out on the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So when you have a mindset of, yeah, I'm disappointed, but there's enough room for a lot of people. I've got my space. I'm just better than you, so I'll get it anyway. That's a good position to be in, right? We've covered a lot of stuff here, Joe. I just want to make sure that you're good. Last question.
Yeah, goes.
Last question.
I know. No. Tangents, so just avoid that. But
yeah, we're good. No, the last question I want to frame out is, what is the most influential thing that's happened in your life that brought you to the success you see now?
Most influential. Uh, you know, I don't know. I can't like put it on one thing, but I I like sports, but I'm not. It was never been my like, you know, I don't like go right to the TV to watch sports. I've always been mesmerized by business, money, things. I know that's not. I've always wanted more. Ever since I was a little kid. And I remember when I was like, I think my mom always tells the story. I think when I was like 5 or 6, I asked for a briefcase for Christmas. I mean, most kids are asking for like Legos and stuff. I asked for a brief, and then she wanted there was a movie, and I remember just seeing like the preview, and I forgot what it was, but it was what's that movie, Wall Street, where
Yeah.
what's his blue shirt with the white collar. I
Gordon
wanted one of those.
Gekko.
I just wanted to I wanted to work on like Wall Street or something like that. I interned at Merrill Lynch as an intern years ago. Realized it wasn't for me, but when it came to Monopoly, I was always the one that
I
that was
love
my.
it.
I've always wanted to do that, but there was. I guess you could say my like I said, my parents have always driven us to always. My mom always wanted me to be in business and things like that. But there's a family here in Strongsville. They're very successful. They owned a big craft company, Pack Tans, and I've always looked at them as they're great, such a great family and great friends of the family. And Mike Catan's been pretty influential as far as I remember one time going over his house, like Joe. So I remember help him. I went to his house and for to talk about business or what I wanted to work or something like that. I remember me and one of my other friends went there with Nick Catan and Mike was Mr. Catan was. He asked me, he's like, Joe, what do you want to make in your first job? And I was like, at this time I'm like, okay, I don't want to say something and sound ridiculous. Like this is very successful businessman. I'm like, I don't know, what do I say? Like 50?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm 18 I'm 22 years old, and I think I said like 40 or 50,000. Is like, that's not enough. I'm like, shit. So I was like, I don't know, 100,000. He's like, that's more like it. So, he's always been, this guy that's I've always looked up to as far as business. He ran a great business in Strongsville and achieved a lot of great things, for the family and stuff like that. And I've always seen their success. It's always driven me to always want to be like that. And ever since I remember, in second grade, I always remember seeing Packets hands, and it's just always been a big driver of mine. I'm like, I want to build a big business like that. I want to have my business everywhere, all over the place. And that's always been, a goal of mine. And, here we are today. And Nick and I, we've always talked about, business, expanding my business all over the place and our business. And here we are today. We're living our dream, and we have locations all over the country, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. So
It's absolutely fantastic story. I appreciate
yeah,
you taking the time to go through this, man. This has been great.
it's such a good feeling too. The first we have this show called Am Spot, and it's called it's for all med spas, And I remember the first time I went there, and we were nobody. We were just one location. That's it. And year after year, I'm like, one of these days, everyone's going to know who we are here. Everyone is going to know who we are. And now when we go there, everyone knows who we are when we go there.
Oh, yeah.
It's, and it's kind of like a pat on my back. You know what I mean? It's like, we did it. We went there this past year, and I think we had like 40 of my team members there between franchisees and corporate team and things like that. So we made a big impact, and it's nice now we're getting notoriety from all over the place. We recently spoke at, not me, but my CEO and my head of franchise development. We spoke at a big investment firm conference in New York recently, where we had, I believe it was 1,200 private equity firms that in attendance at the Houlihan Lokey conference, where from that we had, I believe, 46 private equity firms that wanted to talk with us. So it's surreal. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, wow, we got here. We did it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
You're at that
remember, and
pinnacle.
this is also something that like really stuck with me. There was a guy that we brought on as investors in 2000. It was right before COVID, and he was along with Orange Theory guy. And I'll be blunt, I did not get along with these guys at all. They were hard nosed New York guys, and tried running me out of my own company. I mean, there was a time they locked me out of my own company. Honestly, like they got their attorneys and whatever else. COVID is what saved me. You know what I mean? And then I remember on a call, we had a call, and they're like, "We just don't know the future of the business." And I'm like, "Well, you guys are nuts. You guys are nuts. We'll get you guys out of the company. That's no problem." And they're
Yeah.
like, "Well, we're not going to go anywhere." And I can't wait for we put them on all those mailing lists. I'll tell you that much. Every time we sell a big territory, we put them on that mailing list every single time. And I want to make
Let them
sure
know.
that they made the biggest mistake of their life.
Yeah.
So
Let them know. Let them know. Hey, Joe, we are running up against the end of the boundary here. So I'm going to say thank you